this year. If we'd have known that we were going to have to look at going out and finding all of these people that are involved in some of these preserves and getting them to change their contract, which we know is not going to happen, I wouldn't do it, would you? And so we just can't get there. The only way we can get there is as we have in the past, and what has happened consistently last year, year before, this would be approved as an addition to that particular agricultural preserve. When the map was prepared, it would have its own ag preserve number. This is what's happened in the past, and it would be, you would show the old preserve with this section added to it. That would be the map, and there'd be a legal description, not of the whole preserve again, but only of the area added. The contract would have the legal description of the area to be added. It was a simple process. I don't think it flies in the face of what the state has recommended. I have requested that the planning department and that your board consider allowing us to proceed with in this case, and I'll ask you the same thing when Lucero comes up, that we establish our own ag preserve and then a contract. They're both prime agricultural endeavors, and so 10 acres would make it. They're both good agricultural activities, and we all know that probably there is as many contracts within agricultural preserves that shouldn't be there as there are in the program. Don't ask me too many questions, because when I get on a roll, I really like to go.
Supervisor Koufax?
Well, I just have a need for a little clarification here. We've just gotten this just minutes ago. The alternative actions available, and at the bottom here, alternative number 1. I'm not sure if that's the one you're preferring at this point, or are you suggesting we go back to the original recommended motion, or neither of those?
Well, I think it is, if Mr. Lynch is correct in the material they gave you, we want the action that would establish a preserve of its own and a contract of its own.
And so it's a standalone, but with the
Yes.
attachment.
Yes.
It is attached, but standalone.
Standalone.
This is pretty common practice, isn't it?
I don't disagree with 95% of what Jim said at all. And the state guidelines do use the word, well, they're not mandatory, it's a guideline. And their guideline for administering Williamson Act contracts is for the counties. I think their intent is to get a better handle on it. And if we're adding to an existing contract, and that they have to submit with their application, something that says, yes, this property is welcome to join our contract. We have that. So,
Preserve. That's where we get this preserve contract thing.
I just think that the state's guidelines for administering are trying to force local or guide local agencies to have a more comprehensive look at their Williamson Act contracts to make sure that what's in the contracts meets the criteria. If it's going to be included all in one, that it meets the standards and requirements. And by rescinding, re-entering, we're showing that this is all one portion of, or a piece of land that's contracted to within the Ag Preserve program. I don't disagree with what Jim's saying, that we could have it as a separate entity, and the state does allow for lands clearly less than 100 acres to be within that.
Yeah.
It's at your discretion, and I think, as over the next couple months, hopefully, we'll provide some more clarity through our local amendments ordinance to help this out. It's not a huge issue. We're just saying that I think we're heading in the path of having a rescind and re-enter program to reconfigure and realign ag preserves as they move through time.
But don't say it's not a huge issue, because that means we'll triple the time we devote to it. So if this morning was any indication. So as it stands right now, are there any others who are going to be, through the chair, others who would be commenting on this, or where do we stand?
I had not yet opened it up for other public comment,
Okay.
but I can
Okay.
do so at
Well,
this point.
I'll just let it go until we go through it.
Okay. At this point, I'll ask for any other interested parties in the audience to come forward and comment on this. And I see no one coming forward. So I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the district supervisor.
Well, my feeling here is on this one, the need for some cleanup procedures in the future is something we can examine, but at the moment here, I would suggest the alternative number one, where it's standalone, and leave it at that and just move it forward. The work that would be required to go and get all the other information for the sake of, I'm not clear as exactly what the state, as you describe it, is looking for. It's not compelling enough to say that this seems to be a rather, seems to be by far the most appropriate route to go. So I would move that alternative number one, that everybody has that?
Second.
Be
Yes, they do.
moved and voted upon.
Okay, so there was a motion and a second. To the clerk, you have a comment?
That alternative for the record, we just want to make sure that the action of the board includes the approval of the rezone as presented as well.
Okay.
I see a head nodding from the maker of the motion, yes. Okay, any further discussion? If not,